Welcome to another episode of Framework for the Family. I'm Bomani Tayemba here with my co-host Ezekiel Adams.
What's up?
AKA Z. Howard is not with us. And actually, we want to say Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys.
We haven't seen you guys since last year. I mean, it's been not over a year, but we haven't seen you since last year. And we just want to continue to talk about topics that are germane to the family, assisting family, and thus the title Framework for the Family.
And I want to just add in, I thank some of the comments, some of the people that I've been meeting. Thank you guys for encouraging us with Framework for the Family. I've talked to Bomani a lot of times about the things that we're trying to do, even for the new year. Our goal is to give you information that is going to be helpful. Our goal is to give information that we've experienced
Yes.
in our life. Whether it's a spicy topic or controversial topics. Sometimes we're going to agree, sometimes we don't agree.
Right. I'm always right, he's wrong.
That's what he says. But, all of this, the conclusion of is to give you something that you can take and to apply it to your family. These are things that, we've all learned and we've talked to people, we've studied. And some of the things that we're talking about helps not only us, but it helps our listeners and our viewers as well.
Yeah.
And thank you, Spotify viewers, as well. We also are on Spotify. We never really said that, but we are on Spotify.
That's right, we're on Spotify.
So you can catch us on Spotify at 5 p.m. on Sundays. And you always say, hit that subscribe. I'm going to let you say that.
Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. And leave some comments.
Yeah.
Leave some comments, maybe even suggest some topics. And what's our topic today?
Well, we talked about it earlier. I'm gonna let you.
Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I said we should title this to proper behaviors.
Yeah. I had my title for today was
bad behaviors.
Bad behaviors and how they can affect the marriage.
Bad behaviors.
So I guess Bomani thought that was a little too on the negative side. I agree with him. We're talking about behaviors.
Yeah, we're talking about behaviors.
Yeah.
And I guess, if we really want to help the family, we have to be honest. There are some bad behaviors that can affect the family.
Yes.
And so we're going to throw out some different behaviors that we think need to be addressed that can happen in a marriage, in a family. And we'll go from there.
Yeah. So what is the first topic?
What's the first behavior?
Behavior topic.
Let's see. Yes. So I have my notes over here. One of the first behaviors that can enter into a marriage and into the family that can have a negative impact is selfishness.
Yes.
And then there's actually a scripture in Philippians 2 and 3 says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves." So selfishness puts a personal desires above the needs of the spouse, which can create division.
Yeah.
And even above the children. So let's deal with selfishness.
Yeah. So, obviously, selfishness, I would say, is probably one, I would say number two from communication.
Okay.
Of fast track to divorce.
Being selfish.
Yeah. Being selfish. I don't think you get married to someone to be selfish.
No, you don't.
But a lot of people do.
To be selfish, or
I would say there is an underlying selfishness of right now, this is what I want to do. But if maybe accountability or something that I might not like, if I don't like it, I ain't doing it.
Yeah.
And it might be in an area where it causes for us to take responsibilities in different subject matters that we need to step up to the plate. That's what I call it.
Right.
And because of our selfishness, whether it's laziness or not motivated, or just in our feelings, that is something that at the altar, it should have been
addressed
prior to the altar. It should have been addressed prior to the altar.
There are going to be some things I would say that, marriage brings two imperfect individuals together.
Okay.
Into a marriage. You're both are imperfect.
True.
Right?
I agree.
And there may be some things that a person maybe unknowingly, they may have this character, I'll call it a character flaw, that they actually are selfish. And they bring that type of negative energy into the marriage, and that's just who they are.
Okay.
It's who they are, it's who they are. And maybe they don't even know it.
You know what?
Maybe they don't know
agree,
it.
because a lot of people that I've talked to, you can see a pattern in me, my, I, me, my,
right.
And it's more of, do they even see it?
Right. So you have to be aware.
Yeah.
You have to be aware. I even think it somewhat relates to the spiritual warfare topic that we had some time ago, where our foundation of scripture was in Ephesians, where it said we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Okay, we wrestle not against the individual who may have these traits,
right?
Who may actually be selfish,
right?
And they are maybe even unbeknownst to them, they are bringing that negative energy into the family. And before that, it was just them. They weren't married.
Yeah.
They were not had this accountability to their spouse, to be responsible for their spouse, for their children. And that's, that's something that they were doing because it was just them.
Right.
Now, they were alone, but now the two have become one. And some of those things that they were normally doing in their own life, without a spouse, without a family, those things start to bleed through, and it just has to be addressed.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. I would say everyone have a selfish desire. I agree with you on what you said earlier. I think everyone has a flaw of selfishness. To counteract selfishness is transparency, to understand that you are flawed.
We're flawed individuals.
Or a flawed individual.
Yes.
Personally. You know what? I got some flaws. I understand it. And I'm going to work on that.
Right.
That's the hard part. That is where the rubber meets the road. Is very difficult with some individuals of being able to identify, it's not only me. I got married, I have a husband or wife, I have children, and a lot of times when people get married, the children makes it even more selfish in an area where if a man is selfish and they have kids, he wants the wife to be doing the exact same thing that she was doing, and now there's other responsibilities that they have to do. If it's a woman, the woman might tend, hey, you know what? I'm putting more input into my children than my spouse. And you know what?
That's out of necessity, though.
But sometimes, and I've seen a lot of reviews when it comes to loving your children more than your spouse.
Okay.
It's a fast track for divorce. You're married as two people becoming one. That doesn't separate because of circumstances. That doesn't separate because of children. It doesn't separate because of finances. You are still to cater to your husband, and your husband is still to cater to your wife.
Yes.
Okay?
Right.
Children should not change that, period. I mean, I would be the first to contest that did my situation was similar to that because of that. We did not have the tools to understand we have to continue to be the people that we are with our children as a family structure. We cannot break down our family structure for the children. They need to see the family structure.
They need some guidance.
They need guidance. Right. So being self-centered can put you in a situation where not only it's destructive for you and your spouse, it's destructive for you and your children. And I always talk about family tree. You know, when a person is in the process of a divorce, I always tell them, unless it's something that we've always talked about, you know, when it comes to physicality, if you in a physical altercation, you need to step out of that situation. But I tell them that you need to work it out. Okay? And a lot of times they will say, you know, this is what I need. I need this. I need that. I need love. I need comfort. I need this. I'm tired of him telling me what I can't do. I'm tired of she's telling me what I should be doing or what someone else is doing, what her friends is doing. Or he's saying, well, my friend's wife is doing this. How come you can't do it? You know, and in all of this, I'm noticing that these people want a lot to happen to them.
Okay. So is that what you're saying? Is the selfishness?
It's to me.
They're saying this: I need, I want.
All right.
You got
and you
cater.
Never automatically hear them initially saying, "I want to cater to my spouse."
Okay.
Yes, I want this, but I want to know how to cater to that person. I want to know how to be more submissive to that person. I want to know how to be able to be more of a friend to that person. I want. So, as a counselor, and how I look at it is, I say, okay, what can you give? What are you giving to get this? And that's when it goes to because they're so worried about what they need to have. So I take that selfishness and start to reverse it and being more of a person who's a giver than a receiver. I reverse the conversation of what can you give.
Okay. So it sounds like, if I may observe by what you're saying, is model what it is that you want out of the marriage versus saying this is what I need, and you know I'm going to be upset if I don't give those things. If you communicating that bleeds over into selfishness. Maybe a better or more effective way of dealing with your needs is to model, hey, I'm going to treat my spouse the way I want to be treated.
There you go.
I'm going to model the behavior that I would expect from them, rather than complain about or say, this is what I need and stand on that. And, you know, if you don't give me this, it's the way you communicate. It's the way you communicate. So if you model your behavior about what it is that you want out of it, then the idea is that hopefully your spouse will give that to you. And you know, I always say you can better get bees with honey than you can with vinegar. You can with vinegar. In our human nature, and desire to get what we need, it can be construed as selfishness. But those things that we're asking for, that we actually need, they're not bad things. They're not bad things. They only become bad, they're not bad things. So let me just strike that. They are not bad things.
No, they're not. I agree.
The issue comes is when you shut down. And you refuse to invest in your marriage because you're adamant about, I'm not getting this, so I'm not getting this. You're not going to get anything from me. And
selfishness has many faces. And that was one. You illustrated that pretty well. It has many faces. It has action. Well, you know what? if you're not doing it to me, I'm not doing it to you.
Right.
That's exactly what you just said, and I agree with that. Or in an area where, you know what? Don't tell me how to raise my kids and my.
So you're talking about a blended family situation?
No, we're talking about whether it's a blended family or people who are married and had children together.
Okay.
You know what?
You gonna tell your spouse not to don't
listen?
Spouse is gonna be saying to you, you can't tell me how to raise my kids, but they're my kids. They're our kids.
Yes, they're our kids.
Yes.
There's a situation of this is a true story of a family that their child was wilding out, not really doing well in school, and the father was saying. It's because my wife is taking her around people that I am uncomfortable with.
Okay.
And I have told her that these people, they let their children drink. We can keep an adult, guys. They let the children do whatever. And I don't feel comfortable. I feel that she is not honoring the values of what God is asking us to do in church and all that. And when I spoke to the wife, he ain't gonna tell me how to raise my kids.
Oh, okay.
I said, your kids?
Okay, your kids?
I've been with my friend forever. We grew up and blah blah blah. We've done all this, and that's my friend. And I began to explain to her, first of all, those are you guys' kids. Mm-hmm. And
your husband has some say so.
Your husband has some say so. Right. And that's another way of selfishness. Mm-hmm. Because she had the kids, and you know what? Those are mine. Mm-hmm. No. Open your arms back up and let those kids be healthy enough to work together across the aisle with your husband and for you guys to come up with a plan. Eventually, she got the point after we had to dissect the actual friend and what was going on, and it was unhealthy. Child's behavior, and there's some other areas that the child was dealing with, which all that was, it was quickly corrected just because I would say that when she understood the whole entire outlook on her and her husband, and she started implementing with her child prayer. Okay. Implementing sitting down at the table with her husband and saying, hey, this is what we're not going to allow. That child straightened up faster than it going to therapy. Okay. So selfishness can be has a lot of different faces when it comes to a marriage. Finances. This is another one.
Okay, so this is. Are we still on selfishness?
We're still on selfishness. But do you want to move from this one?
Yeah. You know what? I'm just realizing this. Because even in my little research, I have 10 bad behaviors that we can talk about. Yeah. And we're just on selfishness.
Yeah, you're right.
We can move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
And in fact, we're probably not going to get through all of them, so we may have to continue the podcast just to bring some of those other ones up. But you did in beginning this addressing selfishness. You said it was second to communication. Yeah, second to communication. Communication, not communicating is another bad behavior that's on the list. Yeah, it's further down on the list, but it does failure to communicate. Because even when we were talking about the selfishness. Not only a failure to communicate, not just a failure to communicate, it's that if you're dealing with whatever a bad behavior is, okay, one of the ways you can hopefully diffuse it is to communicate to your spouse, hey, this is what I think is going on. And if there is no communication, the failure to communicate, I'm not listening to you, or I don't want to talk about it. It's not.
Don't tell me how to raise my kids.
Don't tell me how to raise my kids. You have to be open to communication. So let's see what we have. A proverb. It says, "A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
That's bad. That's a failure to communicate. Because really, what's that saying? And really, that's sort of like another level of selfishness. It's like my opinion. What I'm talking about is the only thing that matters. I don't even want to understand you. I don't even want to talk to you because I got it. I got everything under control.
Right.
I know but more than you. It says poor communication or unwillingness to listen leads to misunderstandings and conflicts. So if you're in a marriage and your communication, we had done a podcast on communication. That's how important it is. But in terms of just narrowing this into bad behaviors, failure to communicate is not a good environment for marriage. It's not a good environment even for family situation, because communication is something that's needed not only between you and your spouse, but also between your children and you. So failure to communicate, how can that bad behavior impact a marriage or a family situation?
Have you ever heard of passive aggressive?
Yeah, I've been accused of that. Of being passive aggressive, yes.
So passive aggressive to me, and I want you to correct me on this if I'm wrong. I feel that passive aggressive is not wanting to be responsible for any hard situations, like anything that's difficult, or you're more of you don't like confrontation. You don't want to be
right. You don't like confrontation. And you kind of, when confrontation comes up or a problem comes up, you're and I'm not trying to be, I may not be clinical in this. I can tell you that a passive aggressive behavior or personality is one who's they act, they make it look like this is not really bothering me. This is not something that's really important to me. However, their actions are counter to what they are saying out of their mouth. So they may be trying to get, quote, an even. They may do some things that's counterproductive to the relationship, whether it's a marriage, whether it's with your children. But let's deal with spouse. It's counterproductive.
Yeah.
So that's the aggressiveness of it. It's a deceitful type of behavior.
I look at it as it's a person that get ran over all the time.
It really?
Yeah.
Okay.
A passive aggressive person get ran over when it comes to.
Let me go. I'm gonna go. Go ahead.
That means that, you know what? Jimmy took my school lunch. That's all right.
Right.
But he took your school lunch. You ain't gonna worry about it. Well, he gonna do it again next tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, we wait till tomorrow come. Well, he took your school lunch again.
Well, let's. Okay. I just Googled it because I want to. We always like to at least give its accurate of a definition of things and terms that we bring up. And like I said, I've been. I don't want to say anything that's off of the top of my head that may not be right. So this is what I just Googled. Passive aggressive describes a behavior where someone expresses negative feelings indirectly through actions or subtle comments instead of openly communicating their frustrations or anger, often leaving the other person confused and feeling manipulated.
Wow.
So that's what a passive aggressive person is they're making it seem like, well, this ain't really bothering me. However, my actions are saying, I'm digging at you, and I'm doing it manipulative. And rather than me to express my true feelings about what's going on, I'm gonna get you, but you're not gonna know I'm getting you.
Right.
So and it's all about manipulation.
And that is a form of communication. Again, communication has different parts. Some are, I would say, when it comes to communication or lack of communications, in my book, I have different levels of that. You can be to a point where aggressiveness, passive aggressive behavior, where manipulations and all that, you can't communicate. Now, because of manipulations, someone might not trust who you are, what you're saying and whatnot, and that could become a mixture of bad communication.
Yeah, it's actually dishonest.
It's a dishonest behavior. So trust in that. The other thing is when you have bad communication is that shutting down. Being, you know what? You said something I don't like. My whole day, I ain't talking to you.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Right. And the person that you're dealing with, they confused. Why aren't you talking to me now?
Personality change.
Yes.
You know, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And you're not the spouse you need to be in the relationship. You've shut down. When you shut down, there was a pastor who mentioned something about shutting down. You actually turn in your marriage card temporarily.
Turn in your marriage card temporarily.
And you can put down your marriage card and you can pick it up based upon you shutting down, and that is destructive.
Wow. And we've only dealt with 2 bad behaviors.
And it's not supposed to be we're not supposed to be totally negative.
Right.
But we're talking about behaviors. Our goal is to help people that are going through situations. There is a positive side. God always gives us the ability to understand His Word. In His Word, the negative, which is the dark, will always not be in the same space as light. So we give the information of this might seem negative and it might be dark because you might be going through this stuff. But understand that behavior, understand some of the things that you guys are going through, whether it's communication problems and behavior problems. We're giving you this because there is an answer.
Right, and it's something to look for. So let's summarize. We've talked about 2 bad behaviors. We've talked about selfishness, and we have talked about failure to communicate.
Yeah.
What's something positive that we can leave the audience with in terms of if selfishness creeps into your marriage, all right, one is you want to communicate about it, okay, and listen to your spouse. Be honest with, you know what, I should probably do something about it. One of the things that we said was earlier that can be a positive if you recognize this bad behavior of being selfish, and your selfishness has come out by you wanting to make sure that your needs are met, and that's your focus. One of the things you can do to counteract that is that you can model how you want to be treated,
right,
by treating your spouse how you want to be treated, with the idea that they will begin to reciprocate that same thing to you. So that's how you can get what you want,
right,
rather than just continuing to bombard your spouse with, you're not meeting my needs, you're not paying attention to me, you're always busy, you're always on your phone, you always come home and watch the TV and and that becomes all they hear.
Yeah.
Versus saying, hey baby, let's watch a movie together. Hey baby, let's take some time together. Hey, I know you probably had a bad day and you want some time to unwind. I'm going to give you a few minutes to unwind, and I'm going to come in and let's have a little talk.
Yeah, let's have a talk. And another thing is that we said earlier, a lot of people might not know.
Yes.
That they have this problem.
Just being selfish.
Because
it may just be, I'm acting the way I've been
all
before I was
years.
married.
Yeah.
You're right. So let's give give something positive, a positive takeaway for failure to communicate. I don't want to communicate. How can we if that's something that we recognize as going a bad behavior that I have this bad behavior of not communicating, not listening.
Right.
How would you? Because you don't listen to me.
Oh my God, I really don't. Every time we go to talk, I just, I sing a song.
Yeah.
I would say that, if you're listening to this podcast, you are listening to people who are trying to give an example of what not to do. So if you're listening, I would say this: understand that we're coming from our own personal of imperfections.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I understand personally is my transparency.
Okay.
I had to learn how to be transparent.
Okay.
That means that I had to look in the mirror and say, Zeke, you know what? There's some problems, and I can't say it's all one-sided.
Mm-hmm. It's not just her.
It's not just her.
Not just them. It's not just my spouse.
I got to look at myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
And to not push that behind a closed door, but swing that door wide open and get the help that you need with your transparency.
Okay.
So if someone is saying, man, it's hard for me to talk to you.
Okay.
And you're saying, well, it's because I need this and I need, and you don't understand what that statement is. It is hard for me to talk to you.
Right. Don't get offended by it. Take a deep breath.
And say, okay, if I can't talk to my spouse, then maybe a therapist or a counselor might be able to help me. But my first step is to be transparent.
Transparent. Look at yourself.
Look at yourself
in the mirror.
What you said that earlier, it's two people in the marriage.
Mm-hmm. Two imperfect people.
Two imperfect people
coming
in the
together
marriage.
in a marriage.
And I think that's a topic that I think a lot of people, whether it's YouTubers, pastors, or whatnot, need to understand and preach on being more transparent in that imperfection behavior or personality. Mm-hmm. We hide this mask, we hide all of these walls, and it ain't me, I'm not the person, so we can't get the help.
Yeah.
So
we got to be honest with ourselves.
Yes.
If your spouse is saying to you it's hard to talk to you, or maybe if you all just continue to just start arguments and you can't get past it, that's an indication that there's a communication problem.
Yeah.
So the main thing is, or not so much the main thing, but something that we can take away from this discussion about bad behaviors, and we only talked about two: selfishness and failure to communicate. One, when it deals with failure to communicate, don't take it personally. Look at yourself.
Transparency.
And be transparent and do a honest assessment of yourself and see how you can change it, so that does not be a comment that your spouse says about you. And when it comes to selfishness, model the behavior that you want, and with the idea and prayer that your spouse will begin to give you back what you need in their behaviors towards you. I'm Bomani Tyehimba. This is Zeke Adams, and this is Framework for the Family. This is our first podcast of the new year.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Yeah.
And we welcome you. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we'll be back with another Framework for the Family. And we might even continue these behaviors, because I got 10 on my list.
Okay, you got a lot. I see that. You got a lot on there. But it's a lot to talk about.
It is. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Framework for the Family.
Take care.
Take care.